Coming to you live from just outside Silver Creek, it's the 10 Point Podcast. My name is Bruce, and God came to me last night and told me your purpose for being here. I am going to help you record a new podcast. Forgive me for prattling away and making you feel all oogie. Recording that new podcast with me this week. First, you dirty bird, it's Chris.
You cockadoodie. That came out Australian. I did in my head.
This is a knife.
And secondly, the swearing, it has no nobility. It's Andy.
I think it fucking does.
I feel like his new book was more your cup of tea than his old books, Andy, the way that they were being described. We're the 10 Point Podcast, so you can get us on every single thing that you can ever find a podcast on, and you can get us on YouTube as well, depending on the week, whether you can see us in video form or not, and to be determined.
Shitty Skype.
Right, okay. To be determined this week. You might be able to see us. If not, any suitable podcast apps, you can hear us, and also on YouTube you can hear us. Contact us at 10pointpodcast.com. We want to hear from you. Send us anything you want. You can find other articles, specifically money and sponsors and all that sort of stuff. Any articles and all that sort of stuff, go up there too. And you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. We're 10 Point Podcast on both of those as well. That's all letters, no numbers, not the number 10. It's the word TEN, 10. Andy, I believe you had a shout out, which I've just remembered you were going to mention, talking of our many, many listeners around the world.
Yeah, our number one listeners are coming from Virginia in America.
Oh.
I can't remember where I said, but
I can't remember either where you said, but you said, so more of our listeners are in America than the rest of the world, or as many are in America as the rest of the world.
50% of our listeners are in America, but 35% are specifically from Virginia for no apparent reason.
We're popular in the Virginia.
Silent Hill.
Yeah, Silent Hill had an
That's
impact.
probably why.
Although Andy says one of our best performing episodes of the last week was surprisingly Office Christmas Party or something.
Yeah! It's making a comeback.
For some reason, 30-odd people listened to this week for no reason at all.
Yeah, the timely Christmas episode at the end of January.
Makes
There
no
you
sense.
There's a lot of cheese and wine parties happening this week.
Maybe. So yeah, we want to hear from you, specifically if you are in any of those areas, and also if you did listen to Office Christmas Party for no reason in January.
Yeah, tell us why you listened to it.
We want to know.
Blade's always up there weekly because that's the very first episode we've done. Loads of people on us. They're starting at the start, which is the way they should do it.
Yeah, work your way through.
First Christmas Party.
We have long running storylines that you need to keep on top of. We don't do a previously on, so you need to stay on top of these. So that's
Imagine if we did that. It'd go on.
that's some old podcasts, some old episodes. What have we been watching in the last week prior to the new episode? I think I'm the only one that went out about and saw something this week, so I probably saw the newest thing, which are both reasonably old things that Andy's already talked about in here. So I finally saw Matrix Resurrections,
Oh, yeah.
and I can pretty much just echo Andy's rant from last week or the week before. When it was,
Again?
It's just I don't know why the film exists. So there's no need. It is a money grab. It's not like a offensive money grab because it's not badly made.
Doesn't take anything away. Replacement of Agent Smith was alright. Didn't annoy me. Nothing annoyed me.
Strange replacement of Agent Smith, but no. For a film to have a scene near the beginning of it, where essentially they explain why they're making the sequel, in as much as they were going to make it anyway if we weren't involved, so we thought we might as well just half-arse it, essentially, seems to be what it seems to have been.
Oh.
But, well, I do pours whatever it was all over himself.
He's that angry, can't drink straight.
Yeah, so The Matrix, if you like The Matrix, you'll probably like it. Other than that, I'm not sure why it exists. I'm not sure what all the decisions were, but it's fine. I also went out, and well, Andy has another swig. I don't know if I did it again there or not. I went out and saw Scream 4, so Matrix 4, not Scream 4, Scream 5. But I did watch Scream 4 this week as well. But Scream 4 is better than I remember it being. The last time they tried to make a, what did they call it in Scream 5? Like a requel? The last time they did a requel was Scream 4. It was okay. And Scream 5 actually was pretty good. I quite enjoyed Scream 5, the newest one.
I quite enjoyed it, but it's definitely got one of the best rants that I tried to do last week.
Yeah.
Stop fucking remaking shit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, the Randy surrogates in the film, or the Randy surrogate has a good rant about it. But yeah, I definitely recommend Scream 5. It is pretty much, like Andy said, the first movie again. Like, it's all the same stuff. A few returning characters, which I feel the returning characters were used very well in the new Scream. That they didn't overstay their welcome, and they weren't. It was a film about a new set of people kind of suffering the Scream thing, but you had your mainstays of the franchise were there. So Scream 5, again, just called Scream for no reason. We, as I say, in Scream, we know it's Scream 5, just call it Scream 5. It was fine. And that's it. There were the two new things I saw this week. And I've seen nothing else but those two, except from Scream 4, which I said I'd mentioned. So, Chris, what have you watched in the last week?
Nothing new. I watched The Day After Tomorrow.
Ah.
A banger. That's a banger.
So I thought I'd give it a blast. I haven't seen that for a while. I know, right? You can't be a decent disaster movie that tries to shove global warming down your throat.
It came in the kind of, was it the early 2000s period of time where disaster movies and apocalypse movies were like what we have superheroes now. And about 2002 or something like that, it was always the world is ending because of this, and then they made about 20 movies around that period. But one of the more memorable ones, The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
And
it's worth a shot. So it's a real good film.
And having a title like that makes, whenever anyone says The Day After Tomorrow, you immediately think of that film. I feel like that was a good marketing ploy of theirs. Yeah, I definitely recommend that. I don't expect it'll ever come up in the podcast, but it might be a teaser. Chris has now incepted the podcast with The Day After Tomorrow, so it might show up at some.
It's about time I incepted somebody else instead of getting myself.
And Andy, you were struggling before the podcast. Have you now remembered something you saw in the last week?
Nah, I've not watched any films. There's some fun there, but I don't know what it is. However, I'm going to recommend the new Mando series.
Since Chris is now
so early.
The Book of Mando Fett, or
exactly. Yeah, the newest episode of the Boba Fett series is back to basics, back to the Mandalorian again. So we're all
back to being good.
We're all big fans. So yeah, highly recommended. I give that a thumbs up. The new episode. We're on track now with Boba Fett. Okay, that's it. We better press on and get on to the point of the podcast. Point number 1. We, this week, are covering the 1990 drama thriller Misery, brought to us by Castle Rock Entertainment. That's Rob Reiner's company. This essentially invented it to start making films around this time. We've covered Castle Rock before with Fracture and City Slickers, both in the last season, maybe the last 2 seasons, and also made by Nelson Entertainment. We've not used them before, but they're most famous for When Harry Met Sally is the biggest film they made. Coincidentally, I'm sure not, Rob Reiner directed both When Harry Met Sally and this film as well, so there's another Rob Reiner connection there. Based on the novel written by Stephen King is Misery. You may have heard of him, Stephen King, quite a famous writer. Such novels and short stories turned into films as Carrie, The Shining, The Children of the Corn, The Mist, The Running Man, which we've covered before. He did it under a pseudonym. He had Richard Bachman was his pseudonym when he wrote that.
Oh yeah.
When he wrote Misery, was going to write it as Richard Bachman, but around the time of him writing Misery, that was revealed to be Stephen King, so he just released this as, Stephen King wrote this, not my other guy. But beyond that, he wrote Pet Sematary, It, Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and Doctor Sleep is the most recent of his stories to be a big-time movie. But yeah, he makes a lot of good stories that are turned into good films. The screenplay, however, was written by William Goldman, who has a lot of Hollywood hits himself, the main ones being Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Stepford Wives, All the President Men, and The Princess Bride, all before making Misery. So he came into this with some big-time movies throughout the 70s, mainly there. Film directed by Rob Reiner, as mentioned, famous for This Is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, and other Stephen King thing. The Princess Bride again, When Harry Met Sally, and Misery, and then he made A Few Good Men after that. So a very kind of 80s into 90s Rob Reiner run of films there are his big ones. Misery stars as Paul Sheldon, James Caan, famous for being in The Godfather, Rollerball before being in Misery, and then personally, this is what I know James Caan from, but other ones accepted, Mickey Blue Eyes and Elf, where he plays essentially the dad in both of them.
Not one banger though.
What did I forget?
Oh, it's coming up later on, so the back.
What did I miss?
Santa Slay.
Santa Slay, yes. I knew. I wondered if Chris would pick up on it because he's uncredited in that, so I thought I would leave it. But yes,
well, I remember him being in it because we absolutely slayed him for being in it.
Yes, we have covered James Caan before. Co-starring with James Caan, Annie Wilkes, played by as Annie Wilkes.
Hey,
Kathy Bates.
You fucked up.
This was her massive breakout role. She was an actress in things and TV shows and films, but Misery was a massive hit for her. So her big time films all came after Misery, which were Titanic. Again, personally for me, The Waterboy, where that's her defining character for me. About Schmidt. And then at one point she takes over The Office in the American version of the TV show The Office. She like owns The Office in one of the later seasons. And then she's in about 100 episodes of American Horror Story as well, which I know, Andy, you watch a lot of them, so you probably know Bates from American Horror Story. Yes. So there are two main stars. I didn't bother going any further down. I think they are quite clearly the two main people in this film. Misery, made on a budget of $20 million, which seems like a lot for 1990 for essentially it's one house. It's just the two people in one house. Yes, exactly. So 20 million. Opened in the US first weekend, $10 million in takings. Final US gross, $61 million, tripling its budget on home soil. Worldwide, I do not know. I cannot find any evidence of how much money it made elsewhere, but I'm assuming it came out. It definitely came out in, I think, New Zealand. I had the numbers for that, but I could find no other country's box office takings for Misery. But I'm assuming a good few million across the rest of the world. Released 30th of November 1990, means it was in the 1991 Oscars race, and it had one nomination at the Oscars in 1991, did Misery. Nominated for Best Actress, Kathy Bates, and she was the winner. She won the only Oscar this film was nominated for. Same story at the Golden Globes, 1991. She was nominated for Best Actress in Motion Picture for Drama category, and she won that one as well. She was a Golden Globe and Oscar winner that year. But as always, there is only one award ceremony that we're interested in. And I'm not sure why, but it's the 1992 Saturn Awards that Misery ended up at. I don't know why the extra year or 6 months or whatever it would be. A few nominations for Misery. Nominated for Best Writing, that was William Goldman. Lost to a gentleman called Ted Talley for writing The Silence of the Lambs. So yes, probably fair enough. Misery, nominated for Best Supporting Actress, Frances Sternhagen. That's the sheriff's deputy / wife. She lost as well to someone called Mercedes Rule for The Fisher King. Not a massive star.
Sounds like 30 seconds of how to call her supporting actress.
She was the actress in the billing, I imagine, and she's probably the fourth most regular person in it. On to the big ones, though. Nominated for Best Actor, James Caan. He did not win at the Saturn Awards. Anthony Hopkins won for Silence of the Lambs, and I'm sure when Silence of the Lambs came up, he thought that might happen. Nominated for Best Actress, Kathy Bates. She lost as well, but she lost to Linda Hamilton for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which that's quite a category. And the final nomination at the Saturn Awards, Best Horror Film. Misery did not win that one either because it lost to Silence of the Lambs for the third time in the night. So yes, it got 5 nominations at Saturn Awards and no wins. But Kathy Bates got a lot of awards.
Maybe if it came out in 2001, it would have been all right.
Maybe. Right then, on to the synopsis. What is Misery about? I've got a synopsis here written by Andrew. It's not our Andrew. Another
Shit, get to watch.
Yeah. So again, completely unseen. I have no idea how this goes, so bear with me. Best-selling novelist, spelt wrong. Best-selling novelist Paul Sheldon is on his way home from his Colorado hideaway after completing his latest book when he crashes his car in a freak blizzard. Paul is critically injured but is rescued by former nurse Annie Wilkes, Paul's #1 fan, who takes Paul back to her remote house in the mountains without bothering to tell anyone. Unfortunately for Paul, Annie is also a head case. When she discovers that Paul has killed off the heroine in her favourite novels, her reaction leaves Paul shattered, literally. ... A bit of a cliffhanger there. I thought he might have got Misery in there somewhere, but he didn't say the thing. Who picked Misery for us? It was The Wheel, but Andy has a bit of insight into who put it on The Wheel.
I was Chantel.
It was Chantel. Did she give it any more further reason why she put it on The Wheel?
Apparently this is our favourite film.
She's trying to get Andrew to watch it for years.
Yeah.
This is the only way it would happen.
Apparently it's his fiance's favourite film. So there you go. Chantel, shout out to her for selecting this for us. Has anyone seen it before?
Nope, never seen it.
Once before.
You said I had never seen it, but I'm very much aware of it. Like I knew what this film was about, but
everybody else around me knows this film. I was like, I've never even fucking heard of this until that Wheel came up.
Well, there you go.
It's off my radar.
Completely brand new to this was Andy. Which channel would you normally see this on? And Chris, did you see it on a channel when you saw it?
I feel like I watched this the other week, just over Christmas, so I think it was on BBC.
Right, okay. I had Film 4 I had that marked down as where I thought you would normally find it.
I think this is a late night BBC film. I think.
You see, okay. And normally do which version, but there is only one version of this film, so we all saw the same version. I had a good deep dive on the internet trying to find if there was alternate takes and all endings and all that, but no, only was one version. So we watched the version of Misery. On to point 2 on the podcast, the high points, what we thought the best bits and things about the film were. Does anyone particularly want to start? Because I don't have many high points from like the beginning of the film. There's nothing early going, there's nothing didn't jump out at me.
It's not really a high point, but it's like I noted how strong Annie was. Like after like the car crash when he's lying there unconscious, she just like hoisted him straight up and just walked away as if nothing was. She like a bag of sand.
Also have to have taken him far enough that it wasn't like noticeable. Like I guess because she said she was following it, didn't she? So I'm assuming she was there because she was in the car coming down the road behind him.
I see. Rush had to walk up a hill with him.
Yeah, so like either she was just in the woods waiting for him to crash and carried him through the woods to where her house is, which would be quite a distance to carry someone, or she had to carry him all the way back up that cliff, which we saw was quite a distance when the police were going over. Before we go any further, I'm positive I've been Mandela effect with this film. Somewhere, something in pop culture made me believe that like the twist at the end of this film was that she had run him off the road at the beginning of the film. And I kept waiting for some sort of... And the further this film went on, I'm like, okay, we already know she's a bit mad, and we already know that she's crazy and all that. So it felt weird that the twist was going to be like, oh, it was her in the first place. But something somewhere I confused with what I knew about this film.
See, mine was I thought she got the breaks.
Right, yeah, okay. Well, but even then, like that might have been a twist that was coming. But yeah, there was never necessarily a twist in the film. It was more like it was an accident that happened, and she just happens to be the worst person to find it. Any other early high points from anyone?
Not really. Nothing really happens until he wakes up in the bed.
Yeah.
That was a good high point.
He had a very nice car, although it was not fit for the road he was driving on.
No, definitely not. That is not a slow car. He should not have been out in that.
And I don't know. Like, I guess he was excited. Was he excited that he finished his book? But for him to set out in the conditions that he did was a terrible decision. I don't know if it's quite a worst plan, but it ultimately was a very bad idea. But
and the fact that he was like more interested in making sure his little bag didn't flip off the seat.
Yeah,
probably why he crashed.
Where's it going to go on the floor? Where's your car going to go down a cliff?
Could you imagine writing a book on a typewriter and then just not having a copy of it? That's insane.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
could lose it.
Like that game would be torture.
Especially when it
wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, if we're allowed to use typewriters again.
The one that he actually does end up typing the news story on, which doesn't have an N that works. So every time he uses N, it's just blank space all the way through the story. So my first high point is actually like the barbecue. Is the first thing, the first high point I have when Annie is not best pleased with the news story that he has written, that he's finally done away with whatever her name is, Misery, and she wants him to set fire to it. It's a really good scene where you begin to see her really kind of going a bit mad, and she's a bit controlling of the whole situation. But the fact that it really sets fire to the bloody house, which doesn't look like it was necessarily planned when they were filming it, added a bit extra to it as well. But that was my first high point, was the setting the fire to it, and him not having any other option other than to just do what this mentalist says.
Before that, I actually did like the tension build up of this.
Yeah.
Kind of film. Like, you know what's going to happen. Like, she's a nutter. You know that straight off.
You kind of think she's being nice at the start, just giving him pills and stuff, and be like just looking after him, and then
straight away I was like, bullshit pills, like bullshit. It's like, you got to the house, bullshit. Phones, bullshit. That's on bullshit. Every single thing she said.
As one of my stats, I thought, right, I've never seen this one before. It's an hour and 3/4. I'm going to count the red flags that he should have been aware of. I stopped after 30 minutes because already he was like, I am in trouble at that point. So when we get to stats, I have the first half hour of red flags, which was not the best stat I've ever tracked. But yeah, and there, I thought they would milk it that she was nicer a bit longer, but it's
was it when she read his new book and she flipped out at all the swearing?
Yeah, and then
that was the first one where she just proper flipped out and she was spilling soup.
Yeah, the soup scene, which is really early on. It's like the first, like essentially she helps him. And then the next day, can I read your book? You can. And then here's your dinner. I'm going to spill it over your bed while I go absolutely mental.
I've seen it before. I could swear she spilt soup on him.
Right, okay.
So I remember him pulling out. I think I'm getting a bit mixed up from later on when she smacks him with the book.
Yeah. Could be.
I thought she'd spilled soup on him at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just said, then the tension and the suspense that gets built up, like you just mentioned when Misery dies and she wants him to burn the book.
Yeah.
And then snaps when she finds out that he's left the room.
Oh yeah, that's what I've got. Him exploring I really enjoyed him exploring the house. Because you have the whole tension of she's gone, so she's going to be a while. What can he find, like in his little exploration around about the house? I think it's later on he finds the scrapbook, isn't it? The first exploration he's just kind of looking around, isn't it? Yeah. It's him going from room to room, and then the penguin, which you always know. I like that the penguin, has happened, but you never get the scene of her just sitting in the living room, and then being like, like she just says, "I know you've been out."
Dinner. It's already turned back around. I was like, "Hey there." She turned back. Surely she's known.
I never noticed that bit.
So it's good that it's not as obvious. Like they're like, I know you were out. You did this with my wee penguin.
Like I'd seen it before, but I hadn't seen it for ages, and I was still sitting there like, when did she just flip out here? Like she knows he's been gone, and like you're just waiting for her to just do something, and it's when he's already got the. I'm kind of jumping quite ahead. She's already got the knife, and he thinks she's going to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then nothing happens, and you think that's it, over and done with. And then, which leads me nicely onto my next point, which you can blabber on for a wee second while I just figure it out here.
Oh, right, actually, I know it. But well, before we get to that one, his face when she spills the wine that he has drugged.
Oh yeah,
it's a great high point. Sad. She's like, as a parrot, he's got a great plan. Whatever it is she's feeding him, he's got, I don't know, a month's worth of them into her bottle of wine, and it's like it's a disaster. And it could not. And he's like, I'm just exactly where I'm starting now. Everything I achieved was my little search around the house.
Chris goes before Chris does his next point as well. One of my high points before that is when he's taking a piss in the bottle.
Oh yeah.
You don't see that in films. It's like he's there, all nonchalant. It's like, what's he doing under there? And she's just having a wee chat, and it's just the nonchalant of here's a piss bottle.
Yeah. And then her getting more animated while she's holding the bottle, and then he's just like, ooh, like backing off a little bit, like calm down. I don't want to get covered in that. And then only other high point I've got before Chris gets onto his key moment he's waiting on is the scrapbook. When you find out that she is like an absolute serial killer, like on a rampage for the last 40 years or whatever it's been on.
I forgot about that, but I thought she just like left her, like the post. I forgot she was like some sort of, murderer.
Yeah, she's
or it's implied that she was some sort of child murderer.
Yeah, well, she did. I think for her to cut out everything and keep it in her scrapbook, I think she's proud of what she's been doing for whatever reason it is. But Chris, you've been waiting now. What is your highest point, clearly?
No, it's got to be the hobbling. It is horrific.
It was one of my many like real reactions to the film when that happened. There was 3 times during the film that I had a proper. I can't, and that was one where I was like, oh!
I forgot it happened, and I'm like, she does something, I don't know what it was. And then as soon as she walked in and started talking about it, I went, oh crap, I remember now, I know what's going to happen here. And it's just, that bit just freaks me out.
Oh yeah.
I'll sit out the way.
You're listening to us, you can't see this bullshit we've got to put up with.
You can see the hobbling happening behind Chris as he's talking.
I'll change it back because it is a bit grim.
When she put the wood between his legs and she was talking about people escaping and all that, I was like, oh, is she going to like tie his feet together? And I was like, that doesn't sound like the way she was telling the story of what happens to people. I was like, is she going to like nail his ankles to this bit of wood? I was like, that sounds horrible. All of a sudden the mallet comes up behind Chris at the moment, and then it's like, it made me just not feel comfortable.
It was like the first time I'd ever seen it. I remember, like, I was expecting that to happen. I was watching it. You just seen the ankle go, and you're like, oh my god, I can't watch it anymore.
I did a bit of research, and that was one of they changed a few things about the story for the film, and to make the film less gruesome, they did the hobbling, which sounds funny when you put it like that. That was less gruesome because in the book she actually cuts off one of his feet and then like cauterizes the end of his leg and all that to stop him running away and getting away. So yeah, I think that's a better option. Yeah, they wanted the film to be less gruesome, and they wanted it to be more of a happy ending. They felt like him living the rest of his days with just the one foot wasn't too much of a happy ending. So yeah, they changed that for the book. So I've got 2 more high points, and the 2 other bits in the film that made me react out loud One was the whole thing of the sheriff arriving
Yeah.
at the house and exploring around, and you're like, again, what's going to be the clue? What's going to give it away? And then him coming back in again. It's like, oh, here we go. He's in the basement, and it's, oh, he even shouted at the right time. And the sheriff hears him, and the sheriff works out. It's like, this is all going to plan. But then, when like the center of his body gets shot out of nowhere, it's like that made me just go, ah, and then react out loud.
That's one of our specialities now, is people just getting blasted through the body.
yeah.
I completely forgot that happened. I saw that bit for like the first time again.
Because
it gave me a shock because I really liked Buster.
Yeah, he's brilliant, the sheriff. I was a big fan of his.
He's winning Best Cop Award up until that point.
We'll wait till we get to nominations, but he's definitely in the running for me as well. But yeah, it's just it was an amazing bit, because at that point we're getting kind of close enough to the end of the film that I'm like, okay, this finally might be. He finds him, and then now the two of them need to get out of there alive and all that, but didn't even get a chance. It's the fact that James Caan, he finally sees him, instead of going like, oh, you found me, it's just one finger comes up and it's his points. And you're like, what's he pointing at? And all of a sudden, the sheriff's chest.
I know. It gave me a wee bit of a fright. No, like I think because I forgot it had happened, and it just said bang, splat. And you're like, oh my god. Amazing. But yeah, it was like through the whole film, you loved him and his deputy wife, who like their little sarcastic comments to each other and their little like love-hate relationship they had.
Yeah, the relationship's so good. They're really fun. And the fact that the wife she doesn't seem to give a damn. Like the sheriff, like, I need to work out where this guy is. I know he didn't leave my district or whatever. And she's just, oh, the phone's ringing. It must be a busy day. And just messing around with his papers and all that. But
I get all handsy in the car, and he's like, in this car, you're a deputy, not my wife.
I mean, that was some proper Sherlock Holmes stuff when he's like, that tree has a snap in it. That might be where the car was. Yeah, so that was out of nowhere, some amazing deduction there. So I've got one final high point, which is the last time, which is the fight at the end, which was a great plan. He knew what he was doing. He'd got all his pieces together. He got his gasoline from the basement and all that. And then when you see him, like, it's working out with the typewriter, and I'm like, all right, okay, I can kind of see what's coming here. But when he finally gets the typewriter and absolutely just melts her on the head with it, I was like, yeah! I actually cheered when she got it. And in a classic horror movie style, she takes like 3 killings to actually die.
Yeah.
Which, but the fight itself was really good, especially really brutal as well. I didn't think it was going to be quite as bad, but very rarely do I see a man versus woman fight where I'm like, she deserves every bit of pain and punishment she is getting right now. So it was an odd sensation watching him win this fight against this old lady. And that's my final high point, essentially, because it's the end of the film. So has anybody got any that we passed over there?
I like Misery, the pig.
Oh yeah.
That pig was awesome. Just such a happy pig.
Charismatic, and it was not what I thought was going to happen. She opens the door. Out of all the things I thought were going to happen, I didn't think a pig was going to come up again. Because at that point, we don't know it's a farm at that point. We just think it's like a house in the middle of nowhere. So.
I know, this is another one I think I've been Mandela affected. I could swear that the pig ate him or tried to eat him at one point, or started nibbling away. But I think I might be thinking of one of the Hannibal films.
Maybe in the novel, the plan is she's going to feed him to the pig. I think that's right. I was doing a bit of reading, so I think in the book she intends to kind of kill him and feed him to the pig. So, or at least it's insinuated that's what she's up to when she's not like kind of looking after him in the book and all that. Well, speaking of the book, the deputy's wife was invented for the film. It's just the deputy, the sheriff himself is the only guy trying to, and apparently he's a bit more useless, I think, in the book than he is in the film. They made him a bit more effective in the film. Any other high points, or was that us?
I've got one. You can't beat a good middle finger.
Yeah.
And she's coming in going, oh, I love you, my darling. He's just like, boom, take a middle finger.
It was the funniest bit of the film by far. It was just like, hi, pumpkin.
Yeah.
And yeah, just goes, flips her off through the window. Which was well deserved at that point. We're going to low points now. I'll go straight into one of my low points I don't have written down on point 3 on the podcast. I feel like James Caan is too calm throughout. Like, not at any point does he ever seem like, shit, I am properly in trouble here. And at any time it goes proper mad, like she's just broken my ankle or she's just done this to me, I feel like he's still a bit kind of like low key and kind of like, oh, well, I need to. So he never seems to be as freaked out as I think he should be. Obviously, she's doping him for half of it.
Yeah.
even beyond that. But I'm still like, how are you still as calm? She just shot the sheriff through his chest, and you're still just like, yep, I'll write a book for you. I'll be nice and calm.
I don't know whether they're just trying to like keep things, like I said, mellow, but for a lot of the time, I couldn't hear a word he was saying. He kept mumbling to himself quite a lot. But again, that could have just been for like the effect of the film.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's one of my low points. He said something under his breath. I couldn't hear what he said. I didn't want to turn it up to like 70 on my TV to hear it.
And then can't get some yelling in.
Exactly, it just break my TV speakers.
Your cock-a-doodle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I've only got a couple of low points. I don't have much in the way of low points. I forgot to write down the James Cameron. So the one I've got is, I'm pretty sure he could have eaten the soup on his own. I'm not sure, like, he has bad legs and a bad arm. He still has, like, he could still eat soup with his good arm. So I'm not sure why she had to be feeding it. Like, you've just saved me. I've known you one day or whatever. If you're making me soup, that's nice. You don't have to feed it to me. I have my head, neck, and arm all work. I can eat soup just fine. You don't have
to be fair, his right arm, I'm right-handed. His right arm's in a sling. I would be a bit reluctant to eat soup with my left hand. Just splatter it everywhere.
I'm sure she has some sort of tray. She was bringing the food in. Just set the tray on his lap in the bed. Soup. There we go.
Have you ever tried doing it?
Oh, she's not a nutter. I might get some here.
Maybe.
My first low point is like the flashback scenes with Paul. Like, I never really cared for anything that wasn't involved in like him and the stuck in the house.
Yeah,
it doesn't really mention much either, apart from the fact that he killed Misery.
Yeah, there's only about two, isn't there? Two times that like he crashes the car, and essentially the first scene we get is him in like the publishing office, isn't it?
Yeah.
And talking about the book, the bag, isn't it? Like the satchel, and essentially what he does, which I suppose comes back into later on because Annie knows like how he operates. So you only do one copy and you put it in your satchel thing and you smoke your cigarette and all that. But yeah, it's weird that there's like two like out of sequence scenes and everything else is just normally where it should be. It's, unusual. Andy?
It's a bit slow. Is my point. Usually when there's drama, and I can kind of forgive it because the tension was there, but it was quite obvious straight away that what's going to happen, which then kind of ruined the slow bit. I can allow a slow film if there's a good payoff, but it's almost like 20 minutes in, and then I've got another hour of just, she's a nutter.
Yeah. It felt like they rushed to the development that she was crazy, and then, like you say, they had to spend a lot of time of them being the kind of the odd couple living together, one trying to kill off the other. But yeah, at times the pacing was a bit weird. I thought they would milk it a bit more, where he's not sure that she's like keeping him prisoner. But they went quite close to that.
Yeah, one of my biggest bugbears is he's just a generic writer. Well, he seems like a good writer. He's got no other skills, but how the fuck can he like undo a lock with a bobby pin?
Oh, I know. I'd be there a week later still trying.
Yeah, bullshit. And he managed to lock it as well, like under pressure. Like, no, that's not real.
Oh, like to get out of that, all you had to say was, "Oh, you forgot to lock the door," and I went exploring. I'm sorry, I knocked this over. I won't do it again. And then that's it. He's not getting his ankles broken.
I feel like she might not accept that as an excuse.
I think storm out.
I think there's an element of OCD there where she would know that door was locked. I think she might know. Yeah, I've got one more low point, and it's quite near the end. So if anyone's got anything else through the middle, then they can.
I've got one more. Right. Who in their right mind has a house like that and puts the spare room front facing the first room as you go into the house?
Mad.
That's quite clearly a living room, like not a bedroom.
I would see that as a bedroom because it's not big enough for a living room.
That's a living room.
The one right across, the one that he goes into, is a living room.
Yeah,
so I would do it.
It's still not a bedroom.
I was thinking like a study, like if like a normal sort of, you can have like a shelves of books and a desk and stuff in there, or even like a dining room. But I guess she lives on her own, doesn't she? She wouldn't need a dining room. But yeah, the fact that she's got a spare bedroom in the first place is kind of weird because it seems like she doesn't like have anyone to live in there. It's the whole time I'm building this room for him. That might be it because she knows he's at the hotel or the lodge, or whatever you want to call it. So maybe this whole time she was planning for him to be in the spare bedroom.
I've actually got one more last bullet point before Chris Riles through the rest of them. There is no way that little general store would have had that specific paper in stock for him.
Yeah.
They would have some cheap knockoff stuff. They would have overcharged you because this whole shop local bullshit It's not right. Just go on
That
Amazon.
as well, the whole paper smudges thing. Any paper smudges when you rub it as soon as it's been typed.
Yeah, immediately started doing it. Oh yeah, it smudges. Yeah. For the general store thing to have two types of paper in the first place is a surprise. Never mind that specific kind. You get paper or you get like envelopes. That's like it.
One of my low points is the overly done convenient lightning strike to try and make something seem scarier.
Yeah,
Like,
it was very.
if it wasn't for that, like I might have got off a jump because I forgot so hard just standing there. But the lightning strike's like, oh yeah, of course, he's there. Trying to be scary.
Yeah.
That's obviously just before the hobbling because she injects him and then knows he's been out, and then that's when will I change it again?
I will need to see it again.
And it's not really a low point, but more of just a bugbear. Like as much as I liked Buster, him turning the book to the exact page that he was looking for is absolute bullshit. It never happens.
I don't have it as a low point, but the sheriff's plan where this writer has gone missing. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to read all his books, and that'll help me find out where he is.
What?
It's like I can't deny it worked because he got exactly what he was looking for. But it's like I'm not sure. Like I mean, he has a lot of time on his hands, but it doesn't seem like this guy. His car's gone missing. He's gone missing. No one's heard from him. I'd better read every story he's ever written. That'll give me an insight into what he's like and where he's gone. It's preposterous.
I forgot to ask, check, but what was the time frame for this?
So at some point, apparently in the film, somewhere near the end, it is established that he's in the house for 4 weeks.
Is that it? I thought it was more than
I thought it felt shorter. I thought it didn't even feel like 2 weeks he was there. I feel like every single like separate scene felt like a different day to me. So I don't know. Because it snows and then snows again, and it like rains a couple of times, and you see the storm, but it doesn't feel like a month passes by. Like the sheriff is still as bothered by at the end as he is at the beginning. I think after 4 weeks, he would like not be quite stressing quite as much about this missing person. But yeah, on my second watch through, I couldn't find it where it was, but somewhere on some research I did said it's established that he was there for 4 weeks, but it doesn't feel like it.
I'm out.
I've got one final one then. How did he get out of the basement?
She picked him up.
Did him up?
Oh, no, she didn't. He's hobbled at this point, chucked it in the basement. The sheriff gets blown away. He's probably still on the stairs now, think about it, the sheriff. So she wheels the wheelchair to the door of the basement and then goes, I'll go make some lunch, and then wanders off and just leaves the wheelchair. And it's like, is he supposed to climb his own way out of the basement? And if she'd helped him, she would have noticed that he had a fire lighter thing down his pants, wouldn't she? So I'm positive she leaves him to come up the stairs on his own, hobbled, crawling all the way up and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not sure he could do it, especially with the
Ah, you can crawl upstairs like that.
Maybe that's what the 2 weeks went, or whatever it was. Maybe she came and fed him soup on the stairs as he's climbing up. But yeah, it annoyed me that she just abandoned him down there, because I think in reality, like, she'd have gone down, helped him up, and she would have found his gas thing that he had.
Oh,
so.
I had to do that. That reminds me of one more low point. You didn't ever see a bedpan?
Oh yeah.
Seen a piss pot, but no bedpan. Just saying.
I mean, I don't think it was essential for the story, so they might have not bothered with those scenes. But it's,
can you imagine though that he did poop and she's like waving the pan around like that? He's just like, stop it.
Stop it.
Would it be a good defense mechanism though? Like, she's really, I'm scared of her. If I just shit everywhere, will she come near me, or is she so mad that she'll still come near me?
I should probably chop his ass off or something.
Chop his ass off.
Or do you do with bad dogs and rub the nose in it?
Oh yeah.
Don't do that again.
So you won't want to risk that. So yeah, it's probably not a great idea. Right, on to point 4 then. Point 4 in our stats. Ironically enough, there was one shit in the film, and there was one F-bomb, which was James Caan at the very end as he was stuffing the fiery manuscript into her mouth. But he did type it 7 times on his first piece of writing that he typed out on the typewriter. Explosions 0, unless you've got to try and count the barbecues. Then there's like 2 explosions, but they were just fire. And 2 deaths were seen in the film, Annie and the sheriff. But at least 2 adults were killed in her scrapbook, and roughly 50 babies. That wasn't my counting. That's because the backstory was based on an actual crazy mad nurse that went mad, and she killed approximately 50 babies in her time working in nursing homes and maternity units and all that. So if we're going by that,
Taking a dark turn.
probably about 50 babies. But yes, 2 deaths were in the film. Our 10-point podcast quotas. Surprisingly, no dead animals. I was sure the pig was going to get it or something was going to happen with a dead animal at some point, but everything survived. No goats and no cows, but there was a pig, like we said. Peeing, yes. Someone urinated on the film as described into the bottle. Pedophiles, no. Although, again, the creators of the film told Kathy Bates that her backstory was that she was molested as a child, which is part of the reason that she's got as crazy as she has. That's the backstory of her character, but not actually in the film. We did not have the devil, despite the fact that we had Kathy Bates in the film. Not talking.
Oh, can you imagine? She's went, "You're the devil."
You're the devil.
Bobby Boucher.
Yeah, Misery is the devil. No devil and no KKK either, so we're all clear of those. So like I said, I tried to count the red flags, thinking it's got to take poor old Paul a wee bit longer to work out what was going on. So red flags all in the first 30 minutes. The first thing she says to him is, "I'm your biggest fan." Straight away, that I'd be worried. Like, how is my biggest fan found me? "You could say I was following you," she said at one point. It's like, that's just you were following me then. "Some nights I'd head up to the lodge and just stare at your cabin." No, at that point, he should have been like, right, I am in trouble here. Then her first rage about the swearing, and that's when it started to turn. She goes out of town and comes back with just his book and doesn't like no other like. And then again, finally the rage with the kind of wooden table where she comes in and smashes the table above his head. And at that point, just under 30 minutes of the film, he is like, I am in deep crap now, and I stopped counting. Like I said, Paul was in the house for 4 weeks with some trivia that I put in my stats. And did they say the thing? Did they say Misery?
Oh, loads of times.
Far more than I thought. I thought this was going to be called the film Misery, and here's 22 times they said Misery in this film. It's all the time they were saying it. And like, not only was it his book that he always wrote about, it was also the name of the peg and all that as well. So yeah, a lot of misery in the film Misery. Chris, any stats from you?
I thought it was said a lot more times, but I counted how many times she says, "I'm your biggest fan," or "your number one fan," and 6 times in total, including one groggy one at the very start.
Does that include the woman at the end?
Yeah. So it was said 6 times.
Not bad.
Now, one of my random favourite quotas, there's another 2 nut shots in this film.
Keep them coming.
Just because it happened to happen, I thought there's 2 right in one go there, so. Poor Paul. That was mine.
You, Andy, any stats from you?
Yeah, I'm going to go for best pornographic moment.
Okay.
That meat looked pretty damn good.
Her egg looked quite nice, actually.
It was like, it was
But
a
the
good
potatoes
setup.
didn't.
Like,
Whatever it was.
but that meatloaf looked like steak. I was like, oh, that's a really nice steak. And then when she said it was meatloaf, I was like, wow. I
The
could eat
best
that.
meatloaf on record, yeah. Yeah, I can't argue with that. If that's us finished with stats, we get on to point 5 on the podcast, and that is the 10-point podcast quiz. Andy is the quiz master. Chris is winning after dominating last week. I had no chance against his eagle eye as normal. So Andy, over to you.
Right, this one is a simple game of play your cans right,
Okay.
which is a simple game of higher or lower.
Ah, right, okay.
So basically, you have to tell me if it is high. The cast members in a James Caan film is higher or lower than the previous one I've just
Right,
told you.
so it's can with a double A. Right, okay, play your can.
Play your cans right.
Right, okay, so you're going to give us a person.
I'm going to give you a film,
Right.
and you've got to say is it higher or lower in the number of total cast members in that film.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Who has to go first?
I went first last week, I think.
Right, I'll go first then.
Right. So we'll start off with Misery, obviously.
Mhm.
So think of the total cast members in Misery.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Does Rollerball have a higher or lower cast count?
I'm going to say higher for Rollerball.
I just said
Correct. It is higher.
I think that was a safe one to
I'll
start.
tell you a number.
Ah, of
Actually,
course.
I'll tell you. Right. Misery had 18. Rollerball had 46.
Oh, right. Quite comfortably higher.
Okay. Chris. Is Elf higher or lower than Rollerball?
Higher.
Correct.
Oh,
65.
I thought you were going to say lower there.
Bruce.
ah.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh,
Is that
animated.
higher or lower than Elf, which had 65?
65 animated. I'm good. Animated is tough. I'm gonna try and play safe. I'll just go lower, I think.
Correct, it is lower with 34.
Oh, that's more than I thought, actually.
Yeah.
Chris. Queen Bees. Is that higher or lower?
No idea what that is.
I'm going to say lower.
Correct.
Oh.
It is 27. Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Higher or lower? Undercover Grandpa.
Then 27.
It's higher or lower than 27.
I've got to go higher.
Correct, it is 42. Chris.
Sudden death here, I think.
Santa's Sleigh.
Oh, we've done that.
Is that higher or lower than, what did I say?
I think it was 47.
Yeah. Yeah.
Higher.
Are you sure?
Yeah, higher.
Yes.
Oh.
5.
How many?
45.
Oh,
It was 42.
42.
Right. Bruce.
Hmm?
Mickey Blue Eyes.
Then 45.
45.
Right, there's a wedding in that, so I'm going to go higher.
You are correct. 72.
Oh, easily.
Chris. The Godfather.
oh, I've been waiting for this one. I'm going to say higher, because there's a wedding in that too.
There's a wedding.
You can see higher than 72.
Yeah.
You are correct. 81. Right. We're definitely some death rate.
Right.
That's My Boy.
Is that Adam Sandler?
81.
Right, I think that's an Adam Sandler film, isn't it? I think. If it is, he's probably played more than one character, so I'm going to go lower.
We're going to go lower.
Lower than 81 or whatever it was, yeah.
It was 187.
Oh, what? 187, over 100 higher. Oh my god, right. Chris has a chance to win.
For the win, Chris. But is it higher or lower than 187? Get Smart.
Oh. What we going there?
I want to say lower.
You gonna go lower?
I feel like it's
You get to go lower. It's
Okay,
88.
Oh.
I don't know how. Like, I was trying to think of like what reason there'd be more than 187 people.
Yeah, there's no big scenes. What the hell's in that? He's My Boy, whatever it's called, that made it so high.
It's another wedding, no?
Probably another wedding, yeah. I've never seen that before. So.
I mean, I don't want to see it. That was when
No,
he went to his bad phase of
It
film.
didn't seem like it was particularly good, no. There we go. Well done,
Yeah,
Chris.
your hand's right.
Yeah, play your cans right. Look forward to another 90s game show turned into podcast quiz next week. Not necessarily with Bruce Forsyth, though. On to point 6 on the podcast. Movies within movies. I'm not sure an awful lot to go through with movies and movies this week. I looked out for my parodies and references. Very, 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 very tough for me here. I've got one. Obviously, they mentioned like Evening of the Rocketeer or Rocket Man or something. The serials cliffhangers that she was talking about, but they just like mentioned that. And then there was one other very minute detail thing that implied something. And then a billion VHSs in the general store. But I'm like, oh, it doesn't really matter that they had the DVD for When Harry Met Sally or whatever in there. So The Shining is the only one I could come up with. Because obviously Stephen King wrote both. Driving a car during the credits, middle of nowhere, the guy has writer's block, and then the sheriff in this film has essentially the same storyline as the other fellow with The Shining in The Shining, who spends the entirety of the film making his way up to the house to finally get there to save the day, to then unsuccessfully not save the day when he gets there. So a very similar storyline, and The Shining is the only one I had for any sort of movie, and never not good. I had to go with just being trapped in someone's house is always a good sort of thing. The movies where you're stuck in, this person has you in their house, you can't escape. I'm thinking like 10 Cloverfield Lane and all that sort of stuff where there's a crazy person keeping you in the house is always good. Chris, what have you got for movies and movies?
I went through a lot of them, but I could only see James Caan, and that was in Santa's Sleigh.
Typically, and on form for Chris, he's missed one.
The Barbs?
And yes, it is the Barbs again. Unbelievably, it is the Barbs again. Now, this person only was voiceover actor in the Burbs, so I'm not even sure how that plays into the Burbs because I can't remember it that vividly. But this person was just one of the voiceover actors in the Burbs. But Archie Han, who played reporter number 2,
I never even went that. I never went to like that lot. I swear, like the Burbs got like some hold over my phone. I can't on IMDb.
And that's it. There's like Andy says there's 18 people. Did you count the pig as being in the cast?
Yeah, I even looked at the pig, and she's only been in this.
Yeah, even the pig, there's maybe 18 or 19 people in it, and we've done 2 of them before, and somehow it's the Burbs again. I don't understand.
I was just joking and saying the Burbs were. That's ridiculous.
And Chris, any other movies or the movies?
For putting us into it, I like to see myself as Buster because he kind of reminds me of my dad a little bit. And I put Andy as Annie and Bruce as Paul Sheldon.
I'm the same, but I've swapped you and me, Chris. Yeah, I think it's conclusive that Andy and Annie are a similar type. Andy, what have you got for movies or movies?
Right, I'm going to make this a recasting where it would make it into a comedy film. So exactly the same premise, only you switch 2 actors and it would make it hilarious. So I'm thinking The Rock and Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Are you actually going that way again? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Because the last time I thought you were going to do that, you then didn't. You said it and then didn't go with that. But, so who's
Can you imagine The Rock though as like James Caan and Kevin Hart as Annie?
Oh yeah, that's the way I would do it. The Rock is like the big guy; he's been crippled, and Kevin Hart's just keeping him there. Like, but you'd have a little twist where it's like The Rock is actually The Rock, and he's going to go and do more movies.
Okay.
But Kevin Hart's like trapped him there because he's the #1 big fan, or he's not cast him in any of his movies. You could have it as a proper kind of true to life story.
Stay here until you decide to write another movie that I'm in again. That might be the way to do it. I'm just thinking I might have enjoyed the same film, except The Rock and Kevin Hart are the 2 cops trying to work out what's going on. So The Rock finally gets there to save the day, and then he gets blown away down the staircase. It might be another option. So again, Andy played the type as well, and go for that. So on to point 7, a newer one of our points. Chris has a would you rather for us.
Before I ask the question, I want you to tell me which actor you would like to meet most. I know Andy's for a star, Ryan Reynolds.
Which actor would I like to meet most?
To be different, I'd say Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. Whose films do I like the most? It's a really tough one to say. Honestly, I don't think I come up with. Let's just say someone like Matt Damon then, just so I've got an answer.
Matt Damon. Okay.
Just for my answer.
So, would you rather you got explosive diarrhea when you meet them for the very first time, or would you rather get explosive diarrhea every time you watch one of their films or TV series? So, for example, for Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool 3, you could only watch that either at a toilet.
I would 100% like to meet Ryan Reynolds and shit myself because he would remember that.
I know, like it's only the first time, so if you met him again, it'd be fine. But like, it's explosive. It's happening as soon as you see him and like shake his hand. You're like, oh god, I shit myself. I'm sorry.
100%. To meet Ryan Reynolds, I would shit myself in front of Ryan Reynolds.
We'll see if I set that up.
I would meet Tom Hanks as well. And I think it'd be real nice about to be like, oh, that's okay, don't worry, these things happen. But like
oh, shit myself.
You'd forever be known as the guy that crapped yourself for the first time meeting them.
So if I've actively made this decision, I think I would go the other way, because then I would just know anytime I need to watch a Matt Damon film, I need to just go sit on the toilet, and I can just watch it on my phone on the toilet, and I'd be fine.
Well, that means you would never be able to watch one of his big blockbusters at the cinema ever again.
Yeah, I could probably get over it, but yeah. As long as it doesn't join, like, I don't know, the MCU any more than they already has.
I wonder how this even relates to Misery, Chris.
Not because, like, it was actually you, because, like, you're Ryan Reynolds' #1 fan. And I thought, do you know what? You want to meet your #1 fan, and I was like, how would I do this? So
I would totally cobble Ryan Reynolds as well, if I had to.
I almost changed it. I was like, well, would you rather they crapped themselves the first time, because then it might sully the memory of him, but then I was like, Ryan Reynolds would make that funny somehow, so
yeah.
No.
So as soon as Andy says I'm a #1 fan to Ryan Reynolds, he would then explosive diarrhea.
Exactly. There's nothing you can do to stop it. There's no loopholes. It's like, oh my god, there's Ryan Reynolds. Oh shit. Sorry.
I'll take the toilet option. You guys can shit yourselves in public. That's fine. On to point 8, the nominations for the Pointy Awards. I have quite a lot, so if you want, I can lead off, or I can wait till the end. Who wants?
That's probably better for you.
I've only got a couple.
Right. Do you want to go with yours, Andy, and I'll clean up?
I'll go with mine then. Best animal, Misery the pig.
Best animal.
Oh, I never thought of it. That's a good choice.
Right, okay, best animal is now now an award.
I'm going to go for best actor, Kathy Bates. She absolutely nailed being not a nutter.
Yep.
I'm going to go with best cop. I'm going to give it to him because he was pretty damn good up until he didn't take any backup. That was a pure mistake. Should have always take backup.
Was it just him and his wife? They're the only cops in the town.
He was like both the sheriff and the marshal and all this sort of stuff. He was doing everything. So yeah, between the two of them, they had a hell of a workload.
So yeah, definitely best cop, and that's about it. Really, I've only got them two.
Well,
Cool.
I agree with your best actor for Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
I agree with your best cop. I went for best team of Buster and his wife. I can't remember if that's an actual thing.
Nope, best team. It's
Was it not? Oh,
Right.
I thought there was a best team one. Best outfit, Buster's jacket.
I thought about that actually. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
My biggest twist, because I forgot about it, was the sheriff getting shotgunned in the back.
Yeah, but I think I had that as best death. I had that. For
All
best
right,
death.
I haven't got any bests. I've got best fight, Annie and Paul. So
Yeah, me
that's
too.
coming to it.
Yeah.
And the best effects, I'm not going to change it, but Paul's ankle's being hobbled.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Best special effects. That's good because it was like I think it was his knees, and then his legs were down, and then it was fake shins to feet is what they had for that, and it was like some sort of thing filled with gelatin. I think is what it was. How they made his ankle, and that's why it was so bent. It's just hollow with gelatin in it. Cool. Is that you then, Chris?
That's me. Yep.
All right, what's not been covered? Best supporting, I've gone for Richard Farnsworth, who was the sheriff. I feel like he was in it quite a lot, so I think his acting needs a bit of credit. One of his death is the fight as well. Best plan, I've gone Paul's like murder plot to escape at the end was a pretty good plan. Like him getting inside her head, thinking, okay, she knows that I like to do that with one cigarette and all that. So therefore, if I've got this petrol stuff, I can do this, that, and the other. Get the match, send it away to get another glass. His plan works perfect. Also, I like, I forgot to mention earlier that the first thing you see in the entire film is like his bottle of wine and his cigarette and his match in the hotel room, for lack of a better term, at the beginning, and obviously that pays off at the very end, which is like how he escapes in the end is a good.
You'd think his biggest fan would just say Don Perignon. Or
You would think so. She would, yeah. She would be
Perignon.
read enough books that she would know how to say it, yeah, or even like listened to the radio or something like that. I've gone best twist is Annie as a serial killer. I thought was a good twist, rather than her just being a nut job that's keeping him captive. The fact that she's actually like on a 40-year, 60-person killing spree or whatever, I thought was a good twist. Best Jimmy, James Caan. I don't know if he's been nominated before, but I had to mention him. I don't have anything in the worsts categories. I've just noticed nothing.
No, I could think of anything in the worst.
Nothing that was bad. The set was a bit iffy, but the actual house itself looks kind of cool from the outside. But I have most unexpected was Misery the pig running in. I did not think a pig was going to come running in at that
Best
point.
entrance right there.
Yeah, best
Well,
entrance.
there you go.
Best inanimate object, the typewriter. Michael Pena award, Kathy Bates for the hobbling story that she's telling before she whacks him in the ankle. Best bell end, Annie Wilkes. She has to be best bell end. And I've got worst plan. I had written down, famous writer goes missing in the woods, I'll read his books so I can find him, but then I've got ... It worked, sad face. So it might not be worst plan, but I'll leave it there now. And that's it. That's all my nominations. A lot of positives there. Yeah. A lot of thoughts. It's back. It's back. On to point 9 then, before we get thrown up at the sight of an ankle breaking over. Point 9, the moral of the story. Chris, what is your moral of the story? We'll start with you. Since you're being...
Don't become famous.
Yep, it's a good one. Andy, what's yours?
Don't trust anyone.
Yeah, that was my one last week. I think I remember rightly. My moral of this story is wear a seatbelt, because he did not have a seatbelt on in his car, and he might have avoided this whole thing if he just put a seatbelt on. And it's one of my most annoying little nitpicks I have in every single American film ever. Nobody ever wears seatbelts in any American films.
A regional classic model of Bitches Be Crazy could work as well.
Yeah, that was about 10 episodes at one point. Yeah, she most certainly was, without any argument. On to point 10, the 10-point rating, where we rate the movie out of 10. Nobody picked it. I'll opt to go first. I don't often go first on these ones. I thought it was really good, as evidenced by the fact that I can't really come up with anything bad to say about it. Several times throughout, got genuine reactions out of me. Like if I'd been in the cinema, I'd have been like, "Oh," like full on shouting and throwing popcorn and all that sort of stuff. So really good. It's not perfect. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because I cannot really fault it particularly. So it's a good film. Thumbs up, 7 out of 10 for me. Andy, what you use next?
I didn't hate it. Didn't love it. It's bog standard for me. So I'm giving it a 5.
5 from Andy. And Chris?
I agree with Bruce, really. Can't really say anything bad about it. Everybody's acting was good. Apart, like, Kathy Bates was completely outshone everybody, though.
Yeah, she did. She just stole the film, really, yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's no hanging about. Within 5 minutes, he's crashed and he's in her bed, in the bedroom. And it's, like, it's filled with loads of tension. Like, the scene behind me with the ankle, like Bruce said, it generally gets a reaction out of everybody. And, like, overall, like, I'd happily watch this again. Like, I'm giving it an 8.
8? Big marks from Chris. So let me do my maths over here. Any closing thoughts from either of you?
Yeah, my foot feels funny watching the ankle thing again.
So that'll be, I believe, officially a 7 out of 10 from the 10 Point Podcast for the film Misery. Not too bad. The wheel often picks up some half decent ones every so often.
I was surprised at Andy. I thought this is a kind of film Andy would hate.
Yeah, only Andy.
I didn't hate it. Like I said, it's just. I would have gave it higher if she wasn't revealed as quickly as she was.
All right, yeah.
I don't mind a slow start if the payoff's good. Like that's where I'm at. I can do a drama, but the payoff's got to be good. The speech wasn't because I worked out in the first 2 seconds.
Are we all doing themes for the season? Is that correct? I know I am.
Yeah, I've got one.
I'm going for, and I'll actually lead off with a hint from my one so far because I said if any of them fit in. So far, Total Recall fits into my theme, and Misery fits into my theme.
Okay. So my guess for what the wheel is spitting out this season is so far on the evidence of this film, I'm going Psychopaths. That's what I think.
I would say so, yeah.
But we'll find out. It's tough with only 1 out of.
I'll
one
guess
out of
Trapped.
Trapped. Okay, good one. Okay then, Andy's given us a teaser. We've already seen 2 films that fit his theme, but what is Andy directly picking to start off his theme? Andy, what's your selection for next time?
Right, so I did have one lined up, but then I thought, fucking hell, we've picked a lot of films in 1990.
Yeah, the fact when I do the award seasons and his films have done keep coming up and all that, I'm like, all right, okay.
So I was like, oh shit. So I was like, I'm going to go proper modern. Then I realised that I can't do proper modern because it fucks around with my thing at the moment. So I've had to go the other end and pick the oldest film I've ever picked.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go to 1980s, and it is going to be a film that Chris is going to fucking hate.
Right, okay.
It is The Blues Brothers.
Oh, The Blues Brothers. Musical,
Chris.
Blues Brothers. A cult classic, I would say, The Blues Brothers.
And I reckon Chris could probably take about 5 to 6 attempts to watch it because it is way longer than you remember.
I was about to say, yeah, that's probably right enough. Yeah. So there you go. The Blues Brothers next. Chris seems a bit indifferent on it.
I remember like when we started first hanging around, like Andy loved the Blues Brothers, and we watched like at least once or twice a month or something like that. Like that one, then I think there's a sequel of this, like the 2000 one or something like that.
That's bad. I remember the sequel being really bad. So stick with the original at the moment.
He got to the point where he was obsessed that he used to dress up as the Blues Brothers for like parties and stuff and do the dance.
But I decided we've not had the quota for a while, and it's going to add Bruce's quota quite a lot.
All right.
Oh, right, okay. Yes, I suppose it will now I think about it. Yeah. Yes, I might contemplate counting police cars, but we'll see how I get around to watching it. We'll see. There you go. Anyway, no more discussion on the Blues Brothers till next week. So you have 7 days. Find the Blues Brothers, watch the Blues Brothers, probably listen to the soundtrack a couple of times, and we'll get you next time on the 10 Point Podcast.